is Devender Gupta, and I'm a business coach. I work a lot with startups, technology startups, and also in my past, I've been coaching now for 14 years. Welcome.
Hey.
And so I've worked with a wide variety of businesses, mainly at the startup stage, and I've done projects in retail, I've done projects in services. My background, I'm an engineer, so I'm very familiar with project management. I did a lot of research and development work with the Canadian Air Force. That's my first career. And then my second career was a consulting engineer in imaging systems. So the capture and analysis of digital imaging systems. And then since 2000, I've been working mainly as a business coach. And for the last 8 years, I've been here in Quebec City. My clients are all over Canada, all over the US, and some in Europe. I've worked with a couple of people in Mexico also. So that's why I was asked to come here, as to introduce you to a really, really powerful tool called the Business Model Canvas. How many of you have heard of the Business Model Canvas before? A couple of people? Okay. Well, by the end of this afternoon, you'll be intimately familiar with it. And so, before getting really into the subject, I'm sort of curious to know where you're coming from, and why you are here a little bit. So, mainly for my help, I invite you, we'll just go quickly through everybody in the room. If you'd like to introduce yourself, just like total 30 seconds max. Just introduce yourself, where you're from, and sort of why you're here. And that'll help me understand also to make sure that today that you get the most out of this workshop. So, can we start here? Can you introduce yourself?
Thanks. My name is Jasmine. I am Mexican. I study accounting and finance.
Okay.
I am the
Okay. Great. Welcome.
My name is Janina.
Janina.
I'm from Mexico.
Okay.
And I study technology university. And I also study accounting and finance.
Okay. So accounting, finance backgrounds. Great.
Hi, I'm Paulina. I study in the same university as them.
Okay.
And I also, my career is international business.
Okay. Great.
I am Joanne. I study international business at Laval State.
Okay.
My name is Elisa. I'm from Mexico. I study mechatronics engineer.
Yes, an engineer. Yes.
And I'm the business.
Great. Great. Welcome.
My name is Erica. I study accounting at Laval State. I have a minor in management. Here to learn about entrepreneurship.
Great. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Romeo. I'm from Mexico. I'm actually studying in Université Laval, and I came to Canada seeking for a business opportunity that maybe in Mexico could be harder to find in the technology sector.
Great. Welcome, Romeo. Second row.
My name is Danny. I'm from Colombia. I study at Université and my major is international business.
So where's the school?
In Georgia.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Camille. I'm from France. I study marketing, and I'm here to understand North American business.
Great.
Hi, I'm Bla. I come from Paris, and I study marketing. And next year, maybe web marketing.
Okay, great.
Hi, I'm Jade from France also. I study marketing, and I follow web marketing next year.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Maguette. I come from Paris too. I study marketing, and I will study web marketing to next year.
Okay.
Yo me llamo Simon. And my name is Simon. I'm from Quebec, and I'm studying business administration and economics at Laval University. And it feels a little weird to be over in the class.
Bonjour Simon.
Yeah, my name is Galanis. I'm studying in Laval in business, international business. That's all.
Great.
Hi, my name is Henry from Vancouver, and I'm studying international business. I'm here for fun.
Great. Yeah, we're gonna have some fun.
My name is Abshul Ellis. I attend Université, International Business, Spanish, and Management.
Okay.
My name is Julian. I study accounting and finance at Monterrey in Mexico.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Miguel, and I'm studying food engineering.
Good.
And I'm studying Tec de Monterrey.
Great.
My name is Elisa. I study food engineering and in Mexico.
Okay.
I'm Eva. I'm also studying food engineering, and I came here just to introduce myself to a business stuff because I don't know nothing.
Okay.
My name is Felipe. I'm from Colombia. I go to Untitled State University, and I'm an international business major. And I came here to learn about startups.
Good. Good. In that case.
I'm Jordan. I go to Québec State and I'm studying management.
Good.
Katie, also from Kennesaw State, and I study finance.
Welcome.
I'm Amelia. I'm at Kent State in Ohio, and I'm a French major, international business minor, and I'm here because it's both of those.
All right.
I'm Joshua from Kennesaw State, and I'm international business.
Great. Has everybody had a chance to introduce themselves? And by the way, I'm also a transplant. I'm originally from Dallas, Texas. And but I grew up a little bit here in Quebec City, and I came back 8 years ago. So that's my credentials. Okay. So we're going to talk about business model canvas. So this afternoon will be divided into two parts. The first part is about 45 minutes where it's lecture. We're going to go through the concepts, and then in the second part, you're going to break out into teams and apply the concepts, and you'll have a little presentation to do at the end. And at any time, if there are any questions, please ask the questions right away. Don't wait. And afterwards also, I have my business cards here if you have any questions after this afternoon, because you're going to be reapplying these concepts all through the next few weeks you have here. Feel free to call me at any time or to email me, and it'll be a pleasure to help you with it. So let's get into the concept of business modeling. I'm sort of curious, if somebody asks you, what is a business? How would you describe what is a business in your words? What is a business?
An opportunity.
Business is an opportunity.
It's a group of things that includes all things that work for a common goal, and it's usually profit.
An organization that works for a common goal towards profit. There was a suggestion here. What is a business, Simon?
Well, I was saying your organization with money, with people, human resources, and a vision, a mission, somewhere, a place where they are and where something they want to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
With some customers, with some, I don't want to say it in English, but des ressources externes.
Yeah, external resources.
Everything around business. So, yeah.
So we're building so organization plus resources, a mission, a vision towards a goal. There's about creating profit. What other elements would you put in?
Connections.
There's connections to a network. You're part of a system. Yes.
What about entrepreneurship, which is a form of business? That's how you essentially start it. Anybody can be an entrepreneur.
So how would you describe what is an entrepreneur?
A person who takes the initiative in order to receive something out of it.
So there's opportunity. The word was said, and takes the initiative to get something back. Yeah, so putting in and also receiving. So you have a lot of the elements. And have you ever heard of an author called Steve Blank? Steve Blank, B-L-A-N-K. I highly recommend that you read his blogs. He's an old timer from the old Silicon Valley, and now he writes a lot about this concept of fast growth businesses, high performance businesses and startups. And he has some great items on his blog. So Steve Blank is somebody you should follow. And he came up with a really short definition that I believe encompasses a lot of what you said and also what I think about what business really is. And so a business, he says a business is how you create, deliver, and harvest value. So in the creation, we were talking about the resources and the organizations, and then deliver towards a goal, and then harvest, the mention about entrepreneurship and that. There's receiving, and then value. What is the value? There's profit, there's benefits, there's all kinds of other things. And I really, really like this definition because to me, it sums up the three most important parts of a business. If a business is not creating value, then what is it? It's just sucking value. It's just like a parasite. If it's not delivering value, that means it doesn't have customers. It doesn't have people that are buying or using the product. Then if it's not harvesting value, if it's not receiving value, it's not making money, it's not making profit, it can't survive. So the concept of the business model is a way to see it on a page. It's a way to map out how you create, how you deliver, and how you harvest value. So you can find the best ways, the most effective, the most efficient way to accomplish this goal. Creating, delivering, and harvesting value. The business model, therefore, is how, instead of going into a business plan, the business model is the framework. And then you write the business plan. How are you going to implement that business model? So the business modeling comes first. And the techniques that have been developed over the last couple of years, because of the tech startups who needed a way to quickly document an idea, a business model, how they create, how they deliver, and how they harvest value, have generated this concept called the business model canvas. And there are other tools too. But the business model canvas was a big step ahead. And that only came out in 2011. So at the beginning of 2011, so it's relatively recent. But it's taken the business world by storm because now we have a way that we can test how we create, deliver, and harvest value. We can apply now to business what they do in the coding world. You know, programmers, they can write some code and then quickly see the results of the code, and is it what we want it to do, and then they iterate. They evolve the code towards what they really want to create. But now we can do that now with business modeling. Are you curious to know how to business model? How to model a business?
Yes.
Okay, I think that's the next slide now. Okay, we use business model canvas. And a business model canvas is a visual representation that helps us see relationships between the different parts of the business model. And you named quite a few of them around resources, around organization, around the mission, around the profit. All of those elements are what you see on the paper in front of you. You see all of those elements now in the business. So now we can start charting out the representation and testing hypotheses or assumptions. When I start a business, I've never done it before, or it's never been created before. So how can I know if it's going to work or not without spending tons and tons of money? And actually in my first business, that was my big problem. I wrote a beautiful business plan. I went out and I got about $100,000, and I spent it all on equipment, realizing at the end of having spent it all, that's not what people wanted. People wanted something different from my business, which I could have supplied a lot cheaper. And people didn't necessarily want the stuff I was creating. They wanted my knowledge, they wanted my consulting. And I had set up my business more as a product development shop. So I lost a lot of money at the beginning, and then when I quickly realized, okay, they don't want my products, they want my brain, I had to switch it over to be more consulting and service-oriented, and that's when the money started coming in. So I wish I could have identified my assumptions and risks beforehand. Also with the business model, it allows me to validate. So how am I going to go out into the world and test all these different elements before I spend money, before I spend resources, before I hire people, so that I know that once I build something, people are going to buy it. And one of the sayings that's going around now in the startup world, life is too short to build something nobody wants. Life is too short to build something nobody wants. So that's why the importance of the business modeling. And then next week, we're going to meet again for 2 sessions, and we're going to talk about how to validate the assumptions behind the business model. Also finding ways to add value and reduce cost. As you get closer to understanding what people really want, then you can optimize how you're going to organize yourself to make sure that you're delivering the value that people want. And of course, we're going to talk a bit today about the concept of market disruption. How you're going to impact the market, how you're going to change the status quo so that when your product comes out, people notice it, that you really create a value in people's lives, that you change people's lives for the better. So that's disruption. You want people to pay attention to you because you are creating value. And because you're creating value, people will give you money and you may create profit. So that's how it works. So the business model canvas that you have in front of you that we're going to go through now step by step, that's what it does. It's this visual map. And the beauty of the business model canvas is you're allowed to change things around, you're allowed to make several versions of it and then piece it together. And after a while you start to see that, okay, now I have a model that really works, that really allows me to create, deliver, and harvest value. Comments, questions? Great. So this is the business model canvas. The guy who came up with this is Alexander Osterwalder. Don't ask me to spell that. But if you see on the sheet at the bottom it says businessmodelgeneration.com, you can download this canvas. And also the first part of this book called Business Model Generation, which explains everything we're going to do this afternoon. So it's a free PDF download. It's about 70 pages. And I encourage you to get the whole book. And you probably will at some time during your studies. Business Model Generation. And it's available in French, and I believe it's now available in Spanish also. But it's becoming a Bible for a lot of people, and I have most of my books now. I buy ebooks, but that one I bought the paper book because it's so well done. So as you look through the business model canvas, you're going to see the different parts of it. This is a more stylized representation of it. So basically you start off with the customer segments. Who are the people that you want to serve? What's their connection to you? Why do you want to serve them? Why would they be interested in what you're doing? So even though your business can apply for everybody, what you want to do is to really dig deep to find who are the first people who are going to buy your product or your service. So customer segments. The value propositions, and I'm going to go through this more in detail again in a few minutes, but I just want to give you a quick overview. Customer segments, value proposition. So what is the pain that you're aiming to solve for your customer? What is the desire that you're hoping to fulfill? And it has to be something that's really, really painful. You know, whether it's a problem you're solving or a desire that you want to provide, that you want to meet, but it has to be something that's really, really important in their lives. And you want to define what is that value proposition and what is the benefit to them to have the problem solved or to have the desire met. That is your real value proposition. Then distribution channels. So how do you get this value you're creating, how do you deliver it to your customers? So these are either physical or virtual channels. So these are your actual products and services. Whether it's a website, whether you're shipping stuff through FedEx or whatever, distribution channels. It's that little truck that you see, that little truck that's taking the gift that you're giving your customers to your customer. And then customer relationships. Now this is how you get, keep, and grow your customers. So how do you attract people towards you? How do you get them interested in what you're offering? How do you build a tribe, a community of raving fans? That's the word. Have you ever heard of that book, Raving Fans, by Ken Blanchard? It's a short book. I highly recommend it. It's how to get people really, really excited about what you're offering in your business. It's a business classic. It's been around for many years. Most of the business books that I'll suggest to you have been around for about 20 years because that's when I started in business too. So how do you get, keep, and grow customers? And once I understand how I'm creating and I'm delivering value, I can now start to look at how am I going to harvest value. So the revenue streams, how am I going to charge? What are people willing to pay? What are the main revenue streams? And everybody talks about doing things, this freemium stuff. I believe that when you do freemium, you're leaving money on the table. So look at new ways, look at novel ways to have people commit to what you're doing. So when somebody pays me, they're committing to my service. If somebody is not paying me and I'm doing it for free, well, it's not the same commitment. So revenue streams is really important because that's how you start to harvest the value and you start getting the commitment from your clients and from your users. Then on the, I always get mixed up, that's your left. Yeah, so now you start getting in on that side. It's all around now the execution. So how you're making this happen. So the comments before about an organization and executing and the resources that you need. So the key resources, the key activities, and the partners that you need to get to deliver this value that you're generating. And then finally your cost structure. So the 9 parts of the business model allow you to visualize, test, work with, evolve the different elements of your business model so that you can create a good system, because business is a system that allows you to create, to deliver, and harvest value. I'm going to say it another 20 times today so that it's burned in your brain. Create, deliver, and harvest value. I love that so much, that definition. So, quick overview. Does anybody have some immediate questions? I'm going to go into each one a little more in detail now. Okay? And on the second page of the handout are summary points that I'm going to talk about. There may be some other points that you want to add to this.
Can I get one of those, please?
So who's needed? Okay, great. Here you go. So, first one, customer segments. Customer segments. So, customer segments is what? Who are the people that you want to serve? Who are these users? Who are these customers? And I make a distinction between the two because now more and more we're getting a difference. The people who are using your product are not necessarily the people who are paying for it. So if they're the two together, that makes it a little more simpler. But it could be that you have 2 or 3 different groups and you're bringing these groups together, such as, when you're looking at a marketplace, like Facebook. Facebook, who are the users? Are they the people who are putting the stuff on your Facebook? Who are the customers? They tend to be more the advertisers. So you're looking at creating portraits for these people, and these portraits need to be really, really detailed. if your business is trying to serve everybody, it's serving nobody. You've probably heard that before. You want to really focus on a 1%, on a target market, especially if you're launching a startup. You want to find that target market who's going to see the value in what you're building and is going to come towards you and who's going to commit to it, who's going to buy. And so you want to create a portrait, an archetype of these first early users. So you can understand, so you can recognize them as they're walking along the street or as they're surfing along the net, from their behavior as well as their demographics. You can recognize them. And so the whole concept of the target advertising and all of that. And in defining your target market, go beyond the obvious. And we'll do the exercises later on this afternoon around defining defining the customer segment. But look beyond the obvious. Who are the stakeholders? Who are the people who are sometimes overlooked in all of the stakeholders? Who are people who have something to gain or something to, who are really motivated? And, because you want to find those people. You want to go into what's called the blue ocean. Have you ever heard of the blue ocean strategy? Yeah, so you know what I mean. You want to go where other people are not going right now in terms of serving a customer segment. So who are this customer segment is, who are your users, who are your customers? Number 2, value proposition. The value proposition is, what is their pain? What is their ache? And in my coaching, I make a little difference. If what you're building as a business is towards a business, so if you're doing business to business, B2B, we have to really work on what is the pain, what is the problem, where's the friction. If you're doing more towards the customer, the consumer, business to consumer, it's more what is the ache, what's the ache in their heart, what's the desire. And you're working more with individual motivation when you're doing that. But it's the same idea. So what is keeping people awake at night? And you're looking for how does what you want to do, your solution, how does your solution solve that issue that's always running through their head? And you want to also know what is the gain for them to solve that problem. So what could be an example? What's an example of a problem that you can think of?
Languages barrier.
Yeah, so the language barrier. The language barrier is a big problem in international business. What would be the gain for you to solve that problem? So if you could get across that barrier,
More customers,
you could get more customers, you could get,
more intellectual property.
yeah, and so you could have access to better ideas, better intellectual property.
Outsourcing.
Outsourcing, yeah. So that's when I talk about the gain, is the benefit for solving the problem. It's not necessarily the features that you're providing in your business. We'll cover that later in distribution channels. But at this stage in the value proposition, you really want to focus on how is my customer's life better? Because I've helped them solve the problem. I've helped them cure the pain or cure their ache. And then also the decision trigger. That's the core when you dig down really, really deep. And next week we'll do that in the validation process. What is their decision trigger? So how do people decide that I'm going to choose you? I'm going to choose you. What is the return on use? What's going to make them so enthusiastic about what you have to offer that they're going to pull out their credit card and pay you? And I've always said the only market survey that's worth anything is when you get people to pull out their credit cards or their paying cards. That's the only information that counts. Anything else is they're just being polite to you. So you really want to find what's that decision trigger. So these two parts are probably the most important in the business model. defining the customer segment, and discovering the value proposition. And we go back and forth in validating that and refining that. That's probably a good 70% of the work that I do with my clients is in those two categories. And then the rest falls from that. So as we go into the distribution channels, if I'm really, really clear about what problem I'm solving, then the distribution channels become a lot easier to define. So how am I going to deliver this solution at every stage of the buying process, from discovery to evaluation, purchase, delivery, all the way to the after-sales service? Am I using physical channels? Am I using virtual channels? And what is the value that I add at each step? So if I decide to build a website that has a whole bunch of features, each of those features has to directly relate to something that I've listed in the value proposition. Otherwise, I don't build that feature. Yes?
I just have a question. As you go through these steps, are you thinking of any financial barriers that you would have, or is this just
at this stage, you don't necessarily have to worry about the resources at this stage, but we will get to that, especially on that side of the canvas when you're talking about key resources and that kind of stuff. Then there will be some trade-offs. But at this stage, it is blue sky. You haven't built anything yet,
okay?
And you're trying to see. Because also, what happens a lot, and when I work with my startups that are trying to find financing and work with venture, if the value proposition is clearly demonstrated, money is no object. You'll get the money. If you found a problem that is really, really painful and you have an idea of how to solve it, you'll attract tons of money. And that's basically what Silicon Valley is doing. You know, if you look at the startups that are getting $1 billion, you know, like I was reading today about Waze, solving the problem of trying to find what the traffic is, where you're going. They're offered $1 billion. It doesn't cost $1 billion to solve the problem, but it's worth $1 billion to solve the problem. So that's the beauty of this way of thinking, is that you can really find the value in your business idea. So when it comes to getting the resources, you'll get all the resources that you need. Customer relationships, how you get, keep, and grow. So this is about your sales and marketing funnels. So the people here who are in, those of you who are in the marketing side, you'll get to know this really, really well. How you get, keep, and grow your customer base. How you're building a tribe around you. Today it's all about your community, the tribe that you're building, the people who are following you on social media. So all the social media stuff goes here. Your marketing tools all go here. That's all about building the relationship. And now is the revenue streams. Now that I've started to define the value that I'm generating, I have to figure out now, what is that worth? What are people willing to pay? And this is a lot of fun, because the idea here is you want to sell before you do any development, before you do any building. And so if you look at what's happening in the crowdfunding world, how many of you know about Kickstarter or Indiegogo or crowdfunding? So some of you have heard of that, where you go on a site and people say, okay, if you give me $10, it'll help me towards initial development and building of my new product. Well, it's ways for people to find out how much my clients are willing to pay. Question?
Sorry, is
Yeah.
that the site where the guy had the iPhone or
the Pebble Watch? Yeah, the smartwatch.
Okay.
Yeah. So at first he thought, okay, yeah, people might be willing to pay, I don't know what it was, so it was like $100 for the watch.
Yeah.
But going on crowdfunding, he realized that there was a huge market. People were willing to pay lots and lots of money. He raised what, it was like $10 million or something like that? He figured out what the revenue stream is. He hadn't yet built it. He made a little prototype just to see if the idea made sense. But he hadn't yet built it. So in the revenue streams, what you're trying to do is to figure out what people are willing to pay. And it's not just pricing on the cost, like cost plus, but it's finding what the value is. And that's the big game in the web world right now. It costs really nothing to put up a website. Yeah, you have to hire people and stuff like that. But it's the value that people are willing to pay to access the information on your website. So you want to find that lever. And that's what revenue streams are all about. And there's different ways of doing so. And you want to find revenue streams where you're not leaving money on the table. And I made a little premature comment before about freemium. It's going out of style because people are realizing that you're leaving money on the table. People will use your product if you give it to them for free. And the moment you charge a little bit, they'll go somewhere else. So this is a lot of experimentation. Key resources. So now we're more on the operational side. So what are the resources that you need? So here's where you start getting into your business planning, your project planning. So I'm going to need people, and what qualifications do they have? Do I need licenses? Do I need distribution networks? Do I need money? Do I need an office? Where do I put my head office? Do I put it in Quebec City? Do I put it in Mississauga, Ontario? Do I put it in the States? And this is where you put all of that information in this part of the business model. Key activities. This is so like, okay, these are the deliverables I need for a specific date. And then with those two, you can start determining your cost structure, which we'll see in a moment. Here in the key partners is about who are the external resources that I have to collaborate with. So my suppliers, my distributors, my people who are my franchise holders, if I have a franchising model. So taking a look at who they are so I can determine, are they going to help me, or where are the risks? How can they potentially hinder me? And then finally, the cost structure around. So the accounting people here will be really happy to see these things. What are your fixed costs, variable costs? And it's about tying each element of the cost structure to the other elements of the business model. So if you dig deep and really do this at detailed work, usually when I'm working with a tech startup, we want to spend about 6 months digging really, really deep, full-time work, validating, testing, so that at the end, I can predict when is the hockey stick going to go up. I'm going to know all of these things. I'm going to be able to predict my revenue streams, my cost structure, and a project plan that ensures that I'm able to deliver on what I'm promising. So the business model canvas, customer segment, value proposition, distribution channel, customer relationship, revenue stream, key resources, key activities, partnerships, and cost structure. Do you have questions, comments? Yes?
Sorry.
That's great.
This whole process from coming up with the problem and identifying that problem and the opportunity to actually doing all the research and having maybe a prototype, is there like a time or does it depend mostly on the product?
Well, it depends on the type of product that you're doing. And ideally, it becomes part of the DNA of your business. That you're always revisiting your business model and you're always testing new hypotheses, new ways. So, especially if you're working with a high-performance startup nowadays, it's all called the concept of lean startup. I don't know if you've heard of that, lean startup. A great book by Eric Ries, R-I-E-S, The Lean Startup. This becomes just the way that the business operates. So once a month, you're going back and you're looking at the business model. Okay, what's working, what's not working, or we have some great ideas that we want to test. So you're going to have the experience in a few minutes of doing it. Within an hour, you've gone through every element of the business model. So the first time you go through it, you can just dump your idea onto paper. And then the process of refining it and making one or two iterations. And in the course that I do privately, we go through a complete iteration every week. Until we start saying, okay, where's the breakthrough? What are we doing now that nobody else has done? And where can we find the innovation? The real innovation here is a business innovation. It's a value innovation. Okay. So that's the theory part. Any questions? Other questions or comments? So if not, what I'm going to suggest, how many are we in the group? So 2, 4, 6, we're about 30 in the group. Pardon?
27.
27. So let's do 5 groups. So let's do a 15-minute break. Divide yourself into about 5 groups. So you should have at least 5 people per group, 5 or 6 people per group. And during your break, get together and choose a business. It can be either a business that you want to start, or it can be an existing business. It can be a small business, it can be a big business. But just choose one. And then when you come back from the break, each of your teams, each team is going to build the business model for that business. And I'll walk you through it step by step. So 15 minutes, it's 1:15 right now. So at 2:30, you come back in your groups and position yourself so that you have a place to work and choose your business that you're going to model. Any questions? Great. So see you at 2:30.